Hey, how are we doing? This is Alex here at Ross University. We've been going over the muscles of the lower limb, and I thought I'd bring my perspective on the movements of the muscles of the anterior and medial thigh. If you like it, we can make some more, but these come with the background of a martial artist. Okay, obviously the muscles of the legs are all going to be important for kicking, but particularly the muscles of the thigh. Okay, these upper muscles between the knee and the uh, pelvis, between the knee and the hip. So let's get started. All right. So the first group we're going to go over quadriceps muscles. Okay, quadriceps femoris, the four-headed muscle of the thigh. Okay. So, first you've got rectus femoris, which is going to provide flexion of the hip joint and some extension at the knee. You've got vastus intermedius, which is just deep to rectus femoris. Vastus lateralis, which is on the lateral aspect, the outside. And vastus medialis, which is on the medial section. Okay, together these are going to provide extension of the knee, and the rectus femoris is going to provide some flexion at the hip. So, but that's all what we went over in lecture. A little bit more interesting. Okay, this is going to be a pretty big mover in the front kick. Okay, because you're flexing the thigh and extending the knee. All right. Here and back. Okay, so you see that my leg goes up, flexing at the hip, and my knee extends. Okay, snapping out the kick. Okay, so one more time. Here, up, out, and back. Out and back. All right, the innervation for this muscle is going to be provided by the femoral nerve. Okay, pretty straightforward. So once again, quadriceps muscle, rectus femoris, vastus intermedialis, vastus lateralis, and vastus medialis. Okay, flexion at the hip, extension at the knee, or a front kick. And back. All right. We're going to go over the main flexors of the hip joint. Okay, let's start out with the pectineus muscle. Its origin is at the superior ramus of the pubis, and its insertion is along the pectineal line of the femur, just inferior to the lesser trochanter. Okay, its innervation is the femoral nerve, mostly. In a few instances, you may have some obturator nerve innervation as well. Okay, pectineus is going to flex the thigh at the hip joint. Okay, it's also going to adduct, that's adduct, the thigh, and medially rotate the thigh. Okay, I'll show you these movements in just a moment. Next up, we've got the iliopsoas muscle. It's innervated by the anterior rami of the lumbar nerves. Its proximal attachment are actually going to be right on the vertebrae, the sides of T12 through L5, and the discs between them, and the transverse processes of all the lumbar vertebrae. So this one ties right onto the spine. And finally, we've got the sartorius muscle. That's also going to flex the thigh at the hip joint. It's going to flex the knee, or flex the leg at the knee joint. And it's going to abduct and laterally rotate the thigh. It's innervated by the femoral nerve. Okay, so I'll demonstrate those presently. Alright, so we've gone over what muscles do what. Now we'll demonstrate. So I think a good kick will be the slap kick. Okay, that's going to have medial rotation, lateral rotation, adduction, that's adduction, and abduction, that's alpha Baker duction. Alright, so start out in a good stance, even weight, and medial rotation. Okay, so all at once, here, and back. Okay, so the course my leg ran was it rotated medially, went across my front knee, rotated laterally, and extended at the knee. Okay, so one more time. Here, and back. Here, and back. And one more time. And back. Alright, so why don't we move on to the medial compartment? Most of the muscles of the medial compartment are going to be innervated by the obturator nerve. Okay, first off, we've got the adductor. That's alpha delta, adductor muscles. Okay, adductor longus and adductor brevis. Okay, they're both, as their name suggests, going to adduct, that's bring in the thigh at the hip joint. Adductor brevis is also going to have a little bit of weak flexion of the thigh at the hip joint. Okay, they're innervated by the obturator nerve. They both have their origin on the pubis. The adductor longus origin is just lateral to the pubic symphysis on the crest of the pubis, and the adductor brevis is on the superior ramus of the pubis. Okay. The insertion of longus is going to be kind of on the middle third or so, middle to middle lower third of the medial aspect of the femur, or the middle third of linea aspera of the femur. And adductor brevis, well, its insertion is going to be just superior to that. Okay, so the pectineal line and proximal part of linea aspera of the femur. Next up, we've got the gracilis muscle. Okay, that's also going to adduct the thigh at the hip joint. It's going to flex the leg at the knee joint, and it's going to be medially rotate the leg. It's innervated by the obturator nerve. Gracilis is going to have an origin along the body and inferior ramus of the pubis. Its insertion, its distal attachment, is going to be on the medial surface in the superior portion of the tibia. Okay, so that's the gracilis muscle. Adductor magnus is going to adduct the thigh at the hip joint. It's going to flex the thigh at the hip joint for the adductor part. It's also got a hamstring component that's going to provide some extension of the thigh at the hip joint. So, its innervation, the adductor part, is along the obturator nerve. The hamstring part is going to be the tibial division of the sciatic nerve. Obturator externus is going to laterally rotate the thigh. We went over that lateral rotation a bit. And it's going to stabilize the femoral head. Its innervation is going to be the obturator nerve. and its origins are going to be along the margins of the obturator foramen and the obturator membrane. Okay, so we've got adduction of the hip. This is not the easiest motion to demonstrate, but I think I figured out a pretty good way to show you all. Okay, so remember, when we adduct, we're bringing the hip closer to the center line. Okay, so we're coming from out here in. Now, I think probably one of the best kicks I can use to show this would be one of the outside high kicks, like a crescent kick or maybe an axe kick. That's AX, as in the tool you use to chop wood, or if you're Henry VIII, renegotiate your marriage arrangements. So we've got the outside axe kick. That's going to be coming outside, so you'll have some hip flexion and some abduction. And then at about chest level or so, we're going to stop going outside and we're going to come inside. So we're continuing to flex the hip, but this time we're adducting, bringing it back to the center line. And it's going to come straight down. All right. So quick demonstration. Out and in. Okay? Out and in. And switching sides, just to make sure we get a nice mirror image. Out and in. All right? Out and in. So that's a little bit of adduction rather. Another good kick to show adduction, the crescent kick that I mentioned earlier. Now, rather than coming straight down on top, this one is actually going to come across. Again, usually at about head level, like in sparring, or if you're just a super cool ninja in a self-defense situation. It's going to come straight across, striking with the plantar surface of the foot and the heel. Okay, so you're in your stance, like the axe kick. It's going to start outside and come in, but we're striking with the side and plantar surface of the foot and the heel, rather than just the heel straight down on top. So here and in. Might have been a little fast. Out and in. Okay, the primary motion of that kick is straight across. One more time. Now, of course, none of these are pure adduction movements, because typically, even with your arms, think about it, you can't get much more adducted than this, okay? If you can, let me know. I'd just love to see that. So you're going to start out slightly abducted. Sorry, let me get in anatomical position here. Okay, slightly abducted and abduct. Bring them in. Same thing with the legs. In order to demonstrate, we had to abduct, then bring them back in, adduct. So here and back in. Same thing here and back in. Well, that was the anterior and medial compartments of the thigh. Hope you had fun watching this video. Hope it made things a little bit less confusing, or at least provided about 10 minutes of amusement. Till next time, this is Alex.